Welcome back to the Jump File Labs podcast. In this episode, we're talking about why I'm finally speaking directly to high ticket closers. If you're a friend of mine, yes, I know it took me long enough to do this, but hey, we're finally here so we can all rejoice together. This is the first episode I'm speaking directly to high ticket closers. You may look on this channel and see that I've had a lot of interviews with other founders, but this isn't that, okay? Means that there's no middlemen, no other businesses to position for. It's just us. Okay, closer, a closer. And if you are a high ticket closer and you're taking inbound calls for coaching and consulting programs, if you sell masterminds, agency services, funding offers, dating offers, business offers, fitness offers, this podcast, this channel, it might just be for you. I teach things a lot differently than the Instagram gurus out there, where it's a lot more than just the sexy objection handles. I think there's a necessity for that. But I also believe that there's a lot more things that you can do, focusing on the habits and systems that actually move the needle that much faster, much more tangible results in a lot less time if you actually focus on some of these things that people don't straight up tell you. Either they don't know or they don't think it's sexy or attractive. Okay, so why am I making content for closers? I've had over 10 years experience in sales, a little bit more than $14 million in deals closed, where 13 million, well, a little bit less than 13 mil of that was from the M&A space, where I sold businesses for 75K up to a couple million. And then a little bit more than $1 million of that was closed directly in high ticket selling, where you're selling a product for, let's say, $2,000 up to $20,000, $25,000. Really, the price points can go up, and up. You can close up to like 50K deals. Some offers you're closing on a 100K deal. It's less of the price points that define high ticket selling. It's more so when you're closing in a one call type of structure. Okay. You're closing on a short sales cycle, either on the first or second call, anywhere between 30 minutes to, let's say, an hour and a half at most. Okay. I've had those 20K months that we've all bought into the idea of getting. The first ideas that we get sold on when we get into this space in the first place. I've had those 20K months, but I've also had the income roller coaster that a lot of closers pretend that they're immune from. This is the stuff that they don't talk about on Instagram. This is the months when you're going good, you feel like a killer, and then the next month you're looking up, is my offer dead? You're possibly looking for different offers because something happened outside of your control that all of a sudden things are not looking too good next month. You have some question marks. You're nervous. All of that stuff happens for every single closer in this space. Doesn't matter how good you are. Yes, you might be able to hop onto another offer, but every time you hop onto another offer, you don't know if it's going to be as good as your last one. You don't know if it's going to be better or worse. We've all experienced that, okay? My goal for most of the new content that's coming out on this channel is to expose the hidden levers that help you close more deals without needing you to be a better closer. Wouldn't that be cool? So my goal is actually to help you, believe it or not. A lot of people will say the really nice and fluffy words of, I want to help this many people, blah, blah, blah. But I actually mean it. I mean it so much, in fact, that I'm actually putting myself out there for all the internet to actually criticize and judge. So I actually mean it. Whether or not you decide to enroll and work with me on a closer level is beside the point. If I can help you on your journey to make more money, to make this journey of high ticket selling a little bit easier for you, because this was not an easy journey for me, then if I could do that, cool. Happy to do it. So what did I believe? I believed at one point that in order for me to get more income, that I needed to perform better. I needed to be an elite closer when I was live on a Zoom call. I also believed that I also had to master every single objection known to mankind, because you see these people online and they handle objections so fluidly and easily, and it felt like that's what I needed to do. So what did I end up doing? Well, I invested in real sales coaching. I invested multiple tens of thousands of dollars into group coaching. Shout out to Garrett and Michelle at Closing Bible. I invested in certification. I invested in one-on-one coaching from a high ticket closer who's closed multiple $1 million in sales. Shout out to Brian Choi. What a beast. And what happened? I actually got really good at sales. When you invest tens of thousands of dollars into something, you typically value it and action it, right? This is not like YouTube videos where a lot of times you watch something but don't do anything about it. I actually did the work and became the number 2 closer at a sales agency of over 200 reps, had a close rate of over 70% for calls taken. Despite all of that, it sounds cool, but income still never really felt stable. And the big reason for that was when I was at an outsourced sales agency, you can get moved to a different offer. So for example, the founder that I was selling for, he left that agency and I had to move to a different offer where most closers would have to ramp up. They'd have to understand the prospect. They'd have to understand the objections. Yes, all those things are a must, but I could actually compress that time because of the habits, because of the systems I would install that actually made a bigger impact than just what happened on the call. Okay. Regardless of that though, I still felt the pressure to always be turned on. I had to be on point anytime I was on a Zoom call because nature of the business that we're in, as a commission-only closer, you only get paid when you close deals, right? My skill improved, but the feeling of freedom never actually came to me. And what did I notice? At the agency where we're selling for multiple founders, selling for multiple different industries, talking about dating, fitness, funding, all of these different industries that we could sell for, when you're reviewing calls from other teammates, from other people that are closing deals, you start to see that some deals close easier. Some reps have a little bit less of a harder time than the others. And yes, a lot of closers will play the grass is always greener on the other side game, where we say, oh, I wish I was on an offer like that. And yes, there's some validity to that, but at the same time, you can also control a lot more than you think you can, because typically what we feel as closers is that we're constrained to just performing inside of this little bubble. This little bubble is just what happens on the sales call. Meanwhile, there's this whole big old thing on the outside, which is part of the whole entire sales process, that we essentially just leave to the founder or leave to the marketing department. But actually, if you take control of some of this other stuff, because a lot of times marketing departments actually suck, then you can actually influence your outcome a lot easier and be a lot more consistent at it as well. So yes, a lot of reps closed easier, a lot of prospects did feel pre-sold, and a lot of calls required no persuasion, just a confirmation call instead of a selling call. And so what I realized was that if you're trying to fix the close rate on the call, you are already too late. Because if you're having to do that, then you're basically having to manufacture belief on every single call starting from 0 to 100. You're basically giving TED Talks for 30 minutes. You're doing a lot of explaining, a lot of belief installation, all that stuff. Yes, you can, but it can be really exhausting. And if you're doing that for 8 to 10 calls a day, yeah, recipe for burnout. Most closers try to win on the call, but the best ones will win before it. Before they kick in with their tonalities, before they jump into their frameworks, before they ask the question that's now famous, what happens if nothing changes? What happens if the next 6 months from now are still like the last 6 months? What happens then? So the big takeaway, performance doesn't create freedom, systems do. That's what we'll talk about on this channel. My belief is that I believe high-ticket closers who want to grow their income should stop trying to be elite on the call and start engineering the sale before the call begins, okay? So an example of that would be Markham here. We started working together in August, and by December, well, in this month of November, he got paid in December $16.5K, just a little bit under $16.5K. Cody took his content agency from $30K a month to $300K a month in about 3 months. I know that's a lot of threes there. Josh here took his team to $1 million a month. Hitting $1 million a month is less on the rockstar closers, but on the system that allows even the average closer to perform like a rockstar. Okay? So what does it mean to actually engineer the sale? When you're engineering the sale, we are controlling the buying conditions. Basically, who is hopping on the call? Are they financially qualified? Do they have an actual need? Are they decision makers? We actually have to do all of these things before the call, so we make time for the people who actually are in the buy pocket, who can make the decision, and we're spending a lot less time from the people that just want some more information. The ones that are just curious, they're just looking around, they're just curious to know the price. Right? You've had a ton of those calls already. So what we're also going to do here is we're going to reduce objection friction. What that means is we take some data from some of the calls that we've had. We start to identify which objections we get time after time. And then we engineer materials that actually solve that objection upstream so that the prospect comes onto the call with that objection already pre-handled. Sounds kind of techie, but it's also really cool because once you're able to do that, then you have objectionless closes, which is always what we want, right? We improve show quality, not just show rate. It's a big difference. And then we remove the emotional volatility. What that means is the call is going to depend less on how you're feeling in the moment. Because you know when you have calls that you just feel like you're flowing, you're objection handling, where you pick up on the prospect's non-buyer language and you reframe that before you get to price drops. Yes, there are calls where you have to be super sharp and you have to do that. But if you could do it a lot less because your systems are carrying the weight, that's even better, right? Okay, basically, if you take away one big thing out of this, systems are going to outweigh performance. When systems drive outcome, performance becomes a bonus instead of a burden. What that leads to, more predictable commissions, less pressure, less emotional swings, and a whole ton more leverage. Because if you take 2 closers on the same team, but you have your own internal set of systems, your own internal set of habits that get prospects pre-sold before you get on the call, you're automatically going to close just the same as somebody who's got the on-call presence, but they're not doing those things. These habits and systems are actually the equalizer, okay? Now put it in a different perspective. If everyone closes on the call the same, let's say everyone has the same ability to close 50% of deals, you're going to close more because you're doing stuff outside of just the call. So you're going to have a ton more leverage. Okay? The goal ultimately is not to be able to perform better. It's to need a lot less performance. Let the systems carry the weight. So what can you expect from me? What are the pre-call mechanics that a closer should follow so that they rely less on performance and more on systems? We're going to leverage show rates because show rates, without getting better at closing, if you have more opportunities to close and your close percentage stays at 20%, just by virtue of having more at-bats, you're going to make more money. And then we're going to talk about buyer psychology before the call. What beliefs do we need to install within our prospects in order for them to become a buyer? They got to believe that it costs more to actually not do your program than it is to do your program. They got to have to believe that they cannot do this by themselves. They have to believe that whoever it is you're selling for, that founder, that agency, whoever, are the ones that can take the prospect to the promised land, wherever the promised land the prospect wants to get to. And we're going to talk about systems thinking. This systems thinking has its root in my background as a military guy and also as an aerospace engineer, and we apply it to closers. Our role as closers, what can we do to improve our performance on the call with some of the actions we do outside the call? Okay? All right, so that's me for this episode. If you like this, there's going to be a lot of this good stuff as I showed you right here, what to expect from me. We went over it. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.